books oftentimes are very simple, but that can be deceptive because simplicity is actually the boiling down and condensing of a lot of really good ideas into a very short story and very few words. And sometimes the trick is going to be taking what you think of as a really cool idea and condensing it down into something that's easily digestible. So once you've come up with the idea, it can be very difficult to sort of like, okay, how do I make this like, how do I say the most things with the fewest words and the most easy to understand concepts? Challenges that you will face with the world building is just expanding your mind, exploring possibilities that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. We have a tendency to have a very clear picture in our mind of what we have around us and what we see as reality. And so it can be something as simple as saying, well, this character in my story, I've always thought of them as just people, but what if they weren't people? What if they were frogs? Or what if it were to be, talking garden tools or something like that? That's not a jump that most people are going to immediately go to. We're going to think very literally about things, but what if we opened our minds and made those sort of strange connections, and that can be very difficult when you're coming up. It can be very difficult to envision an entire world. And then for the third stage, for the thumbnailing, making sure everything flows together, this is going to be the first time where you have your written words and some ideas for visuals that are going together. And this can be overwhelming because it's now looking at the whole story rather than just individual images. You have to think about continuity throughout the whole thing. You have to think about, does this make sense? Do these words match these images? For the fourth stage, that is where you're going to run into issues with maybe your own drawing skill. Maybe you don't feel like you're able to fully communicate visually what you want to communicate through your art. It may seem that you're not able to fully voice what you have in your mind. You may experience some frustration and some desire to just quit because you have this great idea and you have this story and you have these images, but making sure that it goes through the whole process can be very daunting as well. And then for stage 5, you may reach a point where you are pretty happy with it, but you don't know how to then go about putting it into the world. There's a million different options for publishing, for self-publishing, for online publications. You may get overwhelmed by all of those ideas, and then you may feel like, what if I put this out into the world and no one reads it, or no one likes it, or it doesn't receive the sort of response that I was hoping for? It can be a very scary thing to create something that you feel like is really you and that really kind of captures something that you're proud of, and then letting that out into the wild can be very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable feeling.